Okay, this is another circuit board that marries itself to an original board we call a donor. And so there's two types of donors. I mean, there's actually a large variety, but in this category where it's just one ROM, there's really two versions of this. One where you have a 32 pin ROM, and it's 32 pins and that's it. And this is the 1AON-01. This is the first generation. Whereas you have the newer generation, whereas the 36 pin ROM. So this is the 1AON-30, and there's a -20 as well. And so the 36 pin can be up to well, for this adapter, it's 2 megabytes. And but this donor here only has 32 pins, which means the maximum game you could run would be 1 megabyte, because there's even where the address lines would go aren't even pinned out. Whereas this one, they're all pinned out mostly because it's a bigger ROM. So anyways, I'm not going to go into the detail of showing me solder. It's pretty simple. You put this on the back of the board, you solder the pins, and there's surface mount caps. If you want to put a cap there, it's probably not necessary. And then you put your ROM over here. You have to use a 27C160. Or you can use the 512 megabit SST040. So since this is 1 megabyte only, and if you had a 27C160, let's say you wanted to make the Fireman or something, that's a 1 megabyte game, then you would have to ground the A20 line so it wouldn't float. And so right here is A20, and there's a ground right next to it. Conversely, you could also pull it high, but then you'd have to mirror the game in the ROM. And so if you ground it, then you just program the 1 megabyte game and you're good to go. So now with this one, it's this one, because it has all the address lines, you don't need to do anything for A20. But again, it marries onto the back. It's got a little place for the A21 or the A20, excuse me, address line. This one right here would be A21, which isn't used, so we don't care if that gets soldered or not. It literally goes nowhere. And so on this one, you could use the full 2 megabyte range of the 27C160. And so I will just show you a couple of examples. Again, I don't think I need to show the soldering of. So here's a 27C160 with Demon's Crest 1A0N, and it's just soldered onto the back. So pretty easy. Okay, so it's an example of a 2 megabyte game running on the higher generation donor. So now this one here, this is the first generation one where it only has 32 pins. And you do have to disable the mask ROM by cutting that pin and bending it over and soldering, to the pin next to it. So if you even notice that this donor has a 32 pin mask ROM, but it still has the other, the other 2 pins, for 36, potential. But anyways, but this one doesn't have that potential. This one is 32 pins, and that's it. So, but this one we did 2 1 megabyte games, so we didn't have to ground the one. So this one's Sunset Riders, and then if we, I put a little switch here just for convenience. So it just the little 2-in-1 with a switch on it. Again, because that donor can only handle 1 megabyte games. The games have to be, can't be any bigger than 1 megabyte. So anyway, so that's pretty much all there is. For the high map games, there's the 1J, O0N, and so, but this just marries onto the back of, of the donor, and just solder it on, and that's it. And these are the little half cut holes, so it makes it even easier, to get everything lined up. And then of course the A20 is a half cut hole as well, right there at the end, because a lot of times, when you have a 36 pin circuit board but only 32 pins, that poke through, it can be kind of hard to get those ones that don't have pins, to solder. So anyways, that is it. This is again, Stevens Crest, and of course you have to set these jumpers, to tell it it's 160 and ROM. But well, that's it. It's just something to use up these donors that I don't know how many have these things laying around, but I've got a small box full of these things. And the one thing Nintendo did that was really good was their fingers on these were gold plated. I mean, with hard gold, which is expensive, very expensive, but it lasts long, and the gold, great connections. So yeah, so these, I polished these, so they're nice and shiny and clean. But so that's one positive of using a donor, is that the fingers are still very high quality. Unless they just played the hell out of a game, like you got a game from Blockbuster where people played it every day. But so anyways, so it just takes these, and gives you, you're able to use it. That's got good gold plating, and and you can make it into any 2 megabyte game of whatever the mapping is, low or high, and that's it. So these will probably be available on mordoffgames.com pretty soon. I have to check my stock levels, but there it is.